Like in Saudi, if any there, we're not yet on.
No, just now. I just pressed it. Stop and pause, so I pressed it.
Okay, start, huh?
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin, amma ba'd. So as we continue tonight in discussing the book Al-Mawaqis Al-Fiqhi by Shaykh Salih Fawzan, Hafidullah Ta'ala, and we're still discussing the bab as the title, Kitab Mawarith. So matter that relates to Al-Fara'id or Mawarith, thing that relates to inheritance, that we're still discussing some of those cases. So as we had stated before, that this discussion can be of inheritance is of those discussion that it requires more than one sittings to discuss this matter. The general thing is just about general idea regarding what are those things that one should consider regarding the distribution of a person's the inheritance. So it's not per se to go into every detail and to go into too much of a discussion on certain matters. It's just to have a general idea as to what are the things that are involved. So inshallah ta'ala we'll continue regarding reading from the book and what is stated here regarding some of the cases regarding inheritance. تفضل.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. قال مؤلف حفظه الله, chapter 14, page 289, title Inheritance of Siblings with the Paternal Grandfather. With regard to this case, Imam Ahmed, Imam Shafi'i and Imam Malik adopted the opinion stated by Zayd ibn Thabit, may Allah be pleased with him. Also Abu Yusuf and Muhammad ibn al-Hasan, the two disciples of Imam Abu Hanifa, as well as many of the men of religious knowledge, have adhered to this opinion.
When he mentioned regarding that the two disciples, Abu Hanifa, when he mentioned Abu Yusuf or Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, that's something additional, I think, from the translator. So let's mention here that كما أخذ به أبو يوسف ومحمد بن حسن محمد بن حسن من الحنفية. So those two are, yes, that's the case that they are of the main disciples of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, or Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, who is Abu Yusuf wa Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. And by those, their two effort, they are those ones who are instrumental in the spread of the matter of the Hanafiya. They were instrumental in the spread of the matter of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. And they also, that they considered to be a part of what is called, of those who are the founders of the madhab of Abu Hanifa, or the Ahnaf. Aywa.
According to this opinion, there are three cases of the siblings existing with the paternal grandfather. Number one, they may be full siblings. Number two, they may be paternal half siblings. Number three, they may include both types, full siblings and paternal half siblings.
Hey, so in this case that he's discussing regarding what are the cases or circumstance regarding what portion is to be given to those who are said to be al-ikhwa majid. So you have concerning the siblings, the brothers, but also that they have the grandfather is present, how that portion now is now proportion or given. Aywa. And he mentioned that as for those brothers, those siblings, they could be from both mothers and fathers, that both from the same parents, or they could be by way of the father only, or it could be a combination of so, or siblings who are the combination of those two groups. Some of them that they're from the same parents, mother and father, and also some are mainly from the father's side. So but we said in this case concerned, that's what is meant by al-ikhwa, but also in this case them with the grandfather, what portion they receive. Aywa.
In this respect, if the siblings with the paternal grandfather are either full or paternal half siblings, the grandfather has two cases with them. The first case, when there is no other heir by virtue of prescribed share. In such a case, there are three cases for the paternal grandfather as follows. A. When the Muqassama entitles the paternal grandfather to get more than 1/3 of the estate. The criterion of this case is that the siblings' share is less than double the paternal grandfather's share. For example, their share can be equal to 1.5 of the paternal grandfather's share, or less than that. This case involves 5 forms. Number 1, the deceased paternal grandfather and one sister of the deceased. In this case, the paternal grandfather gets 2/3 of the estate. Number 2, the paternal grandfather and one brother. In this case, the paternal grandfather gets 1/2 of the estate. Number 3, the paternal grandfather and 2 sisters. In this case, he gets half the estate, similar to the second form, which is more than 1/3. Number 4, the paternal grandfather and 3 sisters. In this case, he gets 2/5, which is more than 1/3. Number 5, the paternal grandfather and one brother and one sister. In this case, the grandfather gets 2/5, just like the fourth case. B.
As I mentioned, those 5 cases regarding concerning what portion the grandfather receive. So I said this case is concerned with siblings, that if they're siblings, whether male or female, so you can somewhat give us a general outline regarding that the portion for the grandfather may vary depending on the siblings that are attached with him. Aywa.
B.
So I see that this matter regarding concern for the person who's said it requires a person of experience, and also you have like a jadwal, like a list known concerning if any who's in place, what they receive. So you have to have like a list that is there to work with. Aywa.
B. When the paternal grandfather gets 1/3 of the estate, whether through the muqassama or not. The criterion in this case is that the sibling's share is double the paternal grandfather's share. This case involves 3 forms. Number 1, the deceased paternal grandfather and 2 brothers. Number 2, the paternal grandfather and 1 brother and 2 sisters. Number 3, the paternal grandfather and 4 sisters. In these forms, the paternal grandfather gets 1/3 of the estate, whether through the muqassama or not. With regard to this issue, there is a disagreement among scholars whether the paternal grandfather is to receive his share, which is 1/3 through the muqassama, as an agnant relative, or receive it as a prescribed share, or that he is to be given the option to receive it through either of the 2 ways. Some scholars give preponderance to the opinion that the paternal grandfather is to receive 1/3 of the estate as a prescribed share rather than the muqassama. This is because considering the prescribed share, whenever possible, is worthier, for the prescribed share has more consideration. Moreover, those entitled to prescribed shares are given preponderance to the agnant relatives, and Allah, exalted be He, knows best.
So they mention here in the translation, so you have this case regarding that there's a khilaf between the ulama regarding as to, in this case, this example that they mentioned, or in these cases, does the grandfather receive by way of ta'asib, or he receive by way of fard? Meaning that he gets us by fard, that his portion or his portion is somewhat defined, or is he get by way of ta'asib, that whatever remains, then he gets from what remains. So you have that, or it is not defined as to what he receives. So ta'asib is not defined as to what he receives, but does it fall in the category of being a ta'asib, or he received by way of fard? Then you have that khilaf between the ulama. So the Shaykh mentioned that preponderance, what the word he used? Preponderance. That means concerning ar-raja. Means it's a more correct view. Or the view that they give more value, the view that is giving more value. That they mention here, rajaha ba'du'um, that some of the ulama make a tarjih where they come to the view that that the one view is stronger than the other. So they come to this position that one view is stronger. So they mentioned, as mentioned, there's a khilaf on this matter. Aywa.
C. When 1/3 of the estate yields more than the share that the paternal grandfather will get through the muqassama. In this case, the paternal grandfather gets 1/3 of the estate as a prescribed share. This is when the sibling's share is more than double his share. However, there are no limited forms for such a case, unlike the 2 previous cases. The least number in such a case is the existence of the deceased paternal grandfather and 2 brothers and 1 sister, or the paternal grandfather and 5 sisters, or the paternal grandfather and 1 brother and 3 sisters, and upward. The second case, when there is one entitled to a prescribed share besides the deceased paternal grandfather and siblings. There are 7 cases for the paternal grandfather as follows. A. He is to get his share through the muqassama. B.
They mentioned what Arabian artist says حالة الثانية, the second case they mentioned أن يكون مع الجد والإخوة صاحب الفرد. Is it the same what your title there?
My title.
Yeah.
When
the title heading?
When 1/3 of the estate yields more than the share that the paternal grandfather will get through the muqassama.
It's somewhat different. So, okay, what you said, حالة الثالثة, that's what you just said? Which case is that? ثاني or ثالث?
1/3.
That's حال ثالث. Okay, طيب. Okay. Hey, تفضل. Okay. I found where you're at.
Where am I?
Hey.
B. He is to get 1/3 of the remainder of the estate after the prescribed shares are distributed. C. He is to get 1/6 of the estate. D. When his share through the muqassama is equal to 1/3 of the remainder. E. When his share through the muqassama is equal to 1/6 of the estate. F. When his prescribed 1/6 of the estate is equal to 1/3 of the remainder. G. When his share through the muqassama is equal to 1/6 of the estate as well as 1/3 of the remainder. To tackle these cases in detail, they are as follows.
The way that you can, so you're in حالة الثانية. حالة الثانية أن يكون مع الجد والإخوة صاحب الفرد. Is that where we're at?
No.
That's where we're at?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second case, but
And the way that kind of sound is laid out in the book there from what is in the book is a bit different. You have A, B, C, D, up to what? It's not laid out like that in the book. So the kind of sound, the layout in the English translation somewhat is a bit different from what's in the layout in the Arabic version that I have. So you might get a bit...
I can see it, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
the second case is like, yeah.
You have like letters A, B, C. That's it in Arabic. There's no, it's not laid out like this. Anyway, so you can give it to know, it can throw you off.
It's the subheadings, that's why.
And so you can turn, okay then, so, okay then. No, that's sometimes, so if you have the Arabic, you just read as it is, but when you have the English, if you compare sometimes between and that things can be a little bit different as to how the English is laid out from what is in the Arabic. So that's the thing to try to make sure that you are on the same page. Aywa. So like this, like Muslims said, a person teaching the book, then it's important the person also have the Arabic text, even just teaching the English text. So sometimes regarding concern a person teaching certain books, in any that is good, is advisable that a person also, if he's able to have the Arabic text, to make that comparison, because sometimes I find that certain things may be translated a bit different, completely different from what's in the Arabic text, and also the layout could be different, and can throw down. So to follow and make sure that everything is somewhat in line, that to return back to the original, the Arabic. But the person, the layout can somewhat to make it easy in English, but it kind of somewhat is thrown off with the Arabic text. أيوة ماشي تفضل.
To tackle these cases in detail, they are as follows. A. The paternal grandfather is to get his share through the muqassama when his share through the muqassama is more than 1/3 of the remainder of the estate after the prescribed shares are distributed, as well as 1/6 of the estate. An example of this case is when the deceased has left a husband, a paternal grandfather, and 1 brother. That is when the prescribed share amounts to half the estate that goes to the husband, and the sibling share is less than double the paternal grandfather's share. In this case, the paternal grandfather is to get his share through the muqassama, as the remainder of the estate is 1/2 after giving 1/2 to the husband. This remaining half is to be equally divided between the paternal grandfather and the brother due to their muqassama. No doubt that 1/4 of the estate is more than either 1/3 of the remainder or 1/6 of the estate. Thus, the estate is to be divided as follows. 1/2 is for the husband as a prescribed share, 1/4 is for the paternal grandfather, and 1/4 is for the brother. This can be illustrated in the following table.
Is it have some diagram kind of somewhat there you are? We'll skip the diagram. Or you going to read the diagram as it is?
Shall I read it? The estate, and then
Read it.
and then below.
It's a bit...
The picture helps, trust me. Because
it's have to visualize. Something has to be visualized. There you are.
So in my diagram, as I can see it, it says the husband who gets half, and so then there's a remainder, which is the other half of the estate, which is split in half, as in 2/4, and 1/4 goes to the paternal grandfather, and the brother gets 1/4. So the paternal grandfather and the father share half, which is 1/4 of the estate each, and the husband shares half of the estate.
So the husband receives by himself half. And then you find between the jid, the grandfather, and the brother, they share the other half. So each will get 1/4. Or half of that. Half of a half is 1/4. Aywa.
The paternal grandfather is to get 1/3 of the remainder of the estate after the prescribed shares are distributed. This is when 1/3 of the remainder is more than the share received through the muqassama and more than 1/6 of the estate as well.
The diagram?
Yeah, can you just explain the Arabic diagram?
No, that says that you have
Why has it got 1, 1, 1
in the diagram certain.
I don't understand that.
So sometimes it's a more mathematical type of thing, calculation. So you have that there's 3 people who are inheritors with us. So you have 3. So you have Zawj, who's the husband, Jed, grandfather, and Akh, who's the brother. Right? So as for the husband, that the husband receives, so it's 3 of them, but with the estate, the husband receives, whatever estate is, receive half. So half. So we have 1 there, so that 1 meaning that he gets like half. So there's like really, it's split into 2. Yes, so he gets 1 share of the 2, but that one share, 1 of the 1 share is shared between 2. You understand? So that's a 4 there. So that's right. So yeah. So you have 2, that means that is split into 2 halves. Yes, there's a bit. That's the diagram can be bit. Yeah, you understand it now?
I just wanted to know how the Arabic diagram works. So the Arabic diagram explains it like it puts the amount of shares outside the box, being 4, and then it shows the participant in the box, and then what it does is it starts to show you.
So there's something different in English?
Yeah.
Is something different? Or is
English,
there a diagram in English? Could I see?
In English, it shows you fractions. We know what fractions are.
Okay.
In Arabic,
I understand.
fractions is they use a box, and then outside that box is
okay, I understand. So the way the diagram is in Arabic is a bit different from how this diagram is. Somewhat a little bit different. You can go, but if you have both, you can understand. But it's a bit different from what is in the original diagram in Arabic. So that's the thing. So it can throw you off.
But now I get it.
But if you have the Arabic and the English, then kind of somewhat they kind of somewhat fall together. So what might have comply, might find the same, might a bit off in the English from what may be in the Arabic, because of how the layout of the diagrams are. But we'll just read through them, inshallah. We'll just read through them, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Hey, tafaddal.
An example of such a case is when the deceased has left a mother, a paternal grandfather, and 5 brothers, and such like cases when the prescribed share is less than half the estate, namely 1/6, which goes to the mother in this case, and that the siblings' share is more than double the paternal grandfather's share. The paternal grandfather gets 1/3 of the remainder of the estate after the mother gets her prescribed share, namely 1/6. In this case, as the remaining 5/6 are to be distributed among the paternal grandfather and the 5 brothers. So the paternal grandfather gets 1/3 of the 5/6 that equal 1 2/3, and the 5 brothers take the other 2/3 of the 5/6. Undoubtedly, the 1/3 of the remainder going to the paternal grandfather is more than the share he would have got through the muqassama, and also more than 1/6 of the estate. However, 1/3 of the remaining 5/6 is not a natural number. Therefore, for easier calculations, we can get the common denominator by multiplying 3 by 6 and deal with the case as an 18 share estate. Thus, the mother gets her prescribed share, 1/6, that equals 3 shares, i.e. 3/18. The paternal grandfather gets 1/3 of the remainder, which equals 5 shares, i.e. 5/18. The 5 brothers get the other 2/3 of the remainder, i.e. 10/18, and each gets 2 shares, i.e. 2/18. This can be shown in the following table.
Right, so again, you put a diagram. So the diagram is, you try to put what is mentioned in a diagram form, but the diagram form is a bit tricky for the person who's not used to it. No? And even English one can be even more, I would believe, even more confusing.
The calculations are wrong. The Arabic's right,
And English one is a bit off. Okay. So, read it now. We can make the correction. So, read what's in the English, in the diagram. That's in the diagram form.
Yeah, in the diagram.
Okay. Let him read now. We'll correct him as he reads each. For example, our diagrams are done. You might find that in this book, or the way they lay out the diagram may be different. You understand? So you might find that the diagrams are drawn maybe a bit different. But this diagram is the system that we have here. So the diagram you have in diagram there. For this case, example, in the diagram.
In the diagram, you've got the mother, paternal grandfather, and the 5 brothers. Then you've got a calculation of 6 times 3, which gives the mother 1, the paternal grandfather 1 2/3, and the 5 brothers 3 1/2, which doesn't add up. And then you've got 18 shares, which will give the mother 3 shares.
Does it add up in the sense that the shares it goes 1?
Yeah.
So I said everything's like it's in 6. There's 6 parts. So you find that the mom receive 1/6. The remaining 5/6, then it is a portion go to the jid, and a portion go to the grandfather, and a portion go to the brothers. So the amount that go to the mother is 1/6. So you have 3 group of people sharing the 6th or 6th portion.
Yeah.
So the mother get 1/6. It would be 1 portion would be 1/6. The 5/6 that remain now is to be shared between the grandfather and the 5 brothers. So the grandfather portion of that would be that they mentioned be 1 2/3. And then the brothers, between the 5 brothers, that their portion be 2 1/3. So add all that together, you come up to a number of 6. But I'm saying it can be a bit, take some.
No, it's 3 1/3, right?
No, you see, basically, it should, for the 5 brothers, it should be 3 1/3.
3 1/3.
But on the right column, they've made the 18 shares to make a common denominator, so everyone shares a whole number.
It is the ultimate, yeah.
Fraction,
Yes, a little bit, maths involved. We use you as it is. تفضل.
C. The paternal grandfather is to get 1/6 of the estate when 1/6 of the estate is more than the share he would have got through the muqassama, and also more than 1/3 of the remainder. An example of this case is when the deceased has left a husband, a mother, a paternal grandfather, and 2 brothers, and such like cases in which the prescribed shares reach 2/3 of the estate, and that the sibling's share is more than the share of the paternal grandfather. The paternal grandfather is to get 1/6 of the estate. In this case, as the husband gets 1/2 of the estate, the mother gets 1/6, and the remaining 1/3 of the estate go to the 2 brothers and the paternal grandfather. Undoubtedly, the 1/6 that goes to the paternal grandfather is more than 1/3 of the remainder and also more than the share he would have got through the muqassama. However, dividing the remaining of 1/6 of the estate is not a natural number. Therefore, for easier calculations, we can get the common denominator by multiplying 2 by 6 and dealing with a case as a 6/12 share estate. Thus, the husband gets his 1/2 of the estate, namely 6 shares, i.e. 6/12. The mother gets 1/6 of the estate, which is 2 shares, i.e. 2/12. The paternal grandfather gets 1/6 of the estate as well, which is 2 shares, i.e. 2/12. The 2 brothers get 2 shares, i.e. 2/12, 1 share for each. This can be illustrated in the following table. And in the table, you've got
So they get 12 by 12. It's supposed to be divided into 6. So because the zawj will receive half, and the others will share in the remaining half, right? So they have, but it's 4 group of people. But I mentioned, so they said that they have, so you have zawj, jad, and 2 brothers. That's the case. So I said that because it is 6th and it is like 2/2, then I said 2 times 6 becomes 12. To make it more obvious, I said a common denominator. Now I cannot use that as the way to divide the final share. Now, but said it can be, so the person who does this also have to know concerning maths, and so the person have to know those, know his tables and know his fractions and all of that. There you are.
Should I describe this table or should I just move on?
Let's move on because it's not going to make too much.
When the paternal grandfather's share through the muqassama is equal to 1/3 of the remainder of the estate after the prescribed shares are distributed, and also more than 1/6 of the estate. An example of this case is when the deceased has left a mother, paternal grandfather, and 2 brothers, and such like cases in which the prescribed shares are less than half the estate and the sibling share is double the share of the paternal grandfather. The paternal grandfather's share through the muqassama is equal to 1/3 of the remainder of the estate in this case, as the mother gets her 1/6 as a prescribed share and the remaining 5/6 go to the paternal grandfather and the 2 brothers. The 1/3 of the remainder equals 1 2/3, which is equal to the paternal grandfather's share through the muqassama. However, 1/3 of the remainder is not a natural number. Therefore, for easier calculations, we can get the common denominator by multiplying 3 by 6 and deal with the case as an 18 share estate. Thus, the mother gets 1/6 of the estate as the prescribed share, which is 3/18. The paternal grandfather gets 5 shares, which is 5/18, either through the muqassama or as 1/3 of the remainder. The 2 brothers get 10 shares, 10/18, 5 shares, 5/18 for each. This is shown in the below following table. Are we describing it or are we just...
This is different from the other one.
Yeah, this is more of it.
It's still wrong though.
It's the same type of what says that is I've said you have to get used to the concept, just like this one that everything goes into thirds, right? So he said that the she gets 1/3, and then you have the 2/3 that remain. Then it is to be shared between the jed and the ikhwan, the 2 brothers.
Yeah, but you see how the first table.
And the first one different. It's not in 2. The other one is in halves. The one before.
First one.
The first one. Them all them sep different. Somewhat different. We'll find that the example concerning the first one that is mentioned, that the estate, we have the zawj, you have the jed, and the brother. That's the first one.
Yeah.
So that one, that estate is to be divided into 2 halves, split into halves, because the zawj himself, he take half.
Okay.
So whatever remain, the other half is to be remained by the other inheritors. You understand? So depending on who's involved, depending on what portion they take. So in this case, the mom, she take a big chunk, which is she takes a third.
He meant the
I
second
meant
one.
the second table.
Yeah, the second one. So all of them come said depending on sometimes who are some of the people that are involved. So it said in this case concerning that you have the mom.
It's just that the second table had 5 brothers
Hey,
that shared, and they shared it. But that's what I was gonna ask. That there's 5 brothers in this table. They got
5 brothers and the one that you have the second example.
the second example, but in the one example that we haven't read yet, there's 2 brothers.
It sometimes it varies the amount of brothers.
The amount of shares that they get.
So the main Abu Ayyub, the person that is the center person of this is the Jed, the grandfather.
Okay.
He's the center person. You know, the one in this, the Jed is the one always been mentioned in all of them.
Yeah.
The grandfather. But also who is with him? Is it the mother? My find a person who, you understand? So if it's a mother, it is the Zawj. Sometimes that person who's with him, they get by way of fard, they get a big chunk. They get a large enough chunk. They might get a third, they might get a half. So he, meaning the Jed, who's the center of attention, who's with him to share the remainder.
Oh, the remainder. Okay, I get it.
You understand? So in some cases, for example, you have the Zawj, he take already took the husband, or Zawj, they already take a half. They already take a half. In some cases, so the Jed now, the grandfather, who is with him, they will share whatever remained from what left behind, what remained. So that might vary also. So that's why sometimes for the cases, the calculation varies. But so the center person is the Jed, but also who's with him as a person, who's the asl, the person above him, and the person below him. Aywa.
E. When the paternal grandfather's share through the Muqassama is equal to 1/6 of the estate, and that each yields more than 1/3 of the remainder of the estate after the prescribed shares are distributed. An example of this case is when the deceased has left a husband, a grandmother, a paternal grandfather, and 1 brother, and such like cases in which the prescribed shares are equal to 2/3 of the estate, and the existent sibling share is equal to that of the paternal grandfather. The paternal grandfather's share through the Muqassama is equal to 1/6 of the estate in this case, as the husband gets 1/2 of the estate as a prescribed share, and the grandmother gets 1/6. The remaining 2/6 go to the paternal grandfather and the brother. The paternal grandfather gets 1/6 of their estate, either through the Muqassama or as a prescribed share, and the other 6th goes to the brother. This is illustrated in the following table. There's 6 shares, the husband gets 3, the grandmother gets 1, the paternal grandfather gets 1, and the brother gets 1.
There's in like 6 portions, but the Zawj already got a third. A third,
Gets
sorry,
half,
got a
half,
third.
half, like-
Hey, sorry, they get a half. They get a half of the, in this case, so that the Zawj get a half. So of the 6 years, you already take 3, and everyone else just get as 1/6. So it varies depending on who are the people that are and what remains. Concerning that some people might get a certain amount, and then what remains is shared between the others. Or some people share somewhat already fixed. So it may varies depending on who is with. So the case, so the person of the center of attention is the Jed, but also who's above him and who's below him, and how each person share is proportioned.
Is this an example of basically, I think what did it say in the book? Where it's like rounding it up.
Yes,
rounding up because
Everyone papers are more fixed. Everyone shares is more fixed.
okay.
In certain cases, it's more fixed. So that's it's known who's who on the table.
Like upgrading.
Then says who's on the table.
Yeah.
You have a table list.
And what remains, because it's more than what or less than what he actually prescribed.
And it varies. It varies.
I know that's saying. Yeah, that's what I'm
So it varies. That's everything varies depending on who's with him. Who's with him? It may varies. Aywa.
F, when his prescribed is once, when his, does it make sense? When he is prescribed 1/6 of the estate is equal to 1/3 of the remainder after the prescribed shares are distributed. An example of this case is when the deceased has left a husband, a paternal grandfather and 3 brothers, and such like cases in which the prescribed shares are equal to 1/2 of the estate and the siblings' share is more than double the share of the paternal grandfather. The paternal grandfather's prescribed 1/6 of the estate is equal to 1/3 of the remainder in this case, as the husband gets the 1/2 of the estate as a prescribed share, the paternal grandfather and the 3 brothers share the other half. In this case, 1/6 of the estate is equal to 1/3 of the remainder. However, 1/3 of the remainder is not a natural number. Therefore, for easier calculations, we can get the common denominator by multiplying 2 by 3 and deal with the case as a 6-share estate. Thus, the husband gets 3 shares, i.e. 1/2 of the estate. In the same way, we get another common denominator by multiplying 3 by 6 and deal with the whole case as an 18-share estate. Accordingly, the husband gets half of the estate, 9 shares, as a prescribed share, namely 9/18, and the paternal grandfather gets 3 shares, 3/18, and the 3 brothers get the other 6 shares, 6/18. This can be illustrated in the following table.
So this table now become even a little more confusing.
No,
This one.
this is
Okay.
This one's easy.
Okay, طيب. Hey, ماشي.
Shall I describe it? You got this table. You got the husband, paternal grandfather, and you got 3 brothers. So it's 2 by 3, which is 1 share for the husband, 1/3 for the paternal grandfather, and 2/3 for the 3 brothers. So then now it goes into 6 by 3, which is 3 shares for the husband.
So what?
Paternal grandfather gets 1 and the 3 brothers get 1. So on both of those calculations, 2. Sorry, the 3 brothers get 2. So on both of those calculations, it shows you that regardless of anything, the husband gets half. Then you've got 18 shares, which the husband gets 9, which is half of 18. Then the paternal grandfather gets 3, and then the 3 brothers share the 6 remaining shares, which is 2 each.
Okay, ماشي. Okay, we'll go to the next one.
I mean, whoever floats your boat.
Yeah, we'll try to let's try to complete this one for today, inshallah.
G. When the paternal grandfather's share through the muqassama is equal to 1/6 of the estate as well as 1/3 of the remainder after the prescribed shares are distributed. An example of this case is when the deceased has left is a husband, a paternal grandfather, and 2 brothers, and such like cases in which the prescribed shares equal half the estate and the sibling's share is double that of the paternal grandfather. The paternal grandfather's share through the muqassama is equal to 1/6 of the estate as well as 1/3 of the remainder in this case, as the husband gets half the estate and the remaining half goes to the paternal grandfather and the 2 brothers. Thus, the 1/3 of the remainder, the paternal grandfather's share through the muqassama, and the 1/6 of the estate are all equal. However, 1/3 of the remainder is not a natural number. Therefore, for easier calculations, we can get the common denominator by multiplying 2 by 3 and deal with the case as a 6-share estate. So the husband gets 3 shares, 3/6, which represents half the estate. The paternal grandfather gets 1 share, 1/6, and the 2 brothers get the remaining 2 shares, 2/6 for each. See the following table below.
Before that, Sheikh, Adan? Then we...
After they're done, there's not long left anyway.
Well, that's complete, yeah.
هذا الدعوة تتم الصلاة القائمة آتي محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة وبعث مقامه التي وعد إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
أي نعم تفضل.
Note, as for the remainder of the estate after the prescribed shares are distributed, there are 4 cases for the paternal grandfather. 1. If the remainder is more than 1/6 of the estate, the paternal grandfather gets the largest share of the 3 alternatives, namely the muqassama, 1/3 of the remainder, or 1/6 of the estate. 2. If the remainder equals 1/6 of the estate, then it goes to the paternal grandfather as a prescribed share. 3. If the remainder is less than 1/6 of the estate, the paternal grandfather is entitled to get 1/6 of the estate as a prescribed share, and so the case is subject to the rules of Awl. 4. If there is nothing left for the paternal grandfather after dividing the prescribed shares, then the paternal grandfather is entitled to get 1/6 of the estate as a prescribed share, and so the case is subject to the rules of Awl, as in the former case. In the last 3 cases, the siblings have no shares except for the sister in the case called the Aqdariya, on which we will elaborate later. Note, in some cases, the paternal grandfather gets 1/3 of the remainder by analogy with the mother in the 2 cases known as the Umariyatan, the two rulings attributed to Umar bin Khattab. This is because both the paternal grandfather and the mother are considered ascendants of the deceased. On the other hand, if there is no legal heir entitled to prescribed shares, each of the paternal grandfather and the mother gets 1/3 of the estate. If there is a legal heir entitled to prescribed shares, the paternal grandfather gets 1/3 of the remainder, and the remaining part goes to the siblings. When there are siblings, the paternal grandfather is not to receive 1/3 of the estate, as this will cause harm to the shares of the siblings. The paternal grandfather gets 1/6, as he does not get less than 1/6 despite the existence of the deceased sons, who is the most entitled inheriting heirs. Hence, with greater reason, the paternal grandfather's share does not decrease with other heirs.
Understand? So that inshallah is to discuss in this particular chapter. They discuss mainly regarding concerning al-ikhwa mal-jid, regarding, I will make a lot of focus on the jid, regarding how much he received depending on the circumstance. Aywa.
Point 4, it says if there's nothing left for the paternal grandfather after dividing the prescribed shares, then the paternal grandfather is entitled to get 1/6 of the estate as a prescribed share. As so is the case subject to the rules of Imam.
Those things to be discovered. Certain things you mentioned, you explain them, they'll come. As you mentioned, certain things to be discussed later in more detail.
On the footnotes on the next page, it mentions that siblings here only refers to full siblings and half paternal ones. Is that like a general rule?
And as well, we mentioned at the start that we said as full siblings or half by way of the father.
Is that like a general rule in that paternal, like just not specifically to this, but generally it's paternal siblings?
Depending in this case, in this circumstance, in this case, in this particular case. So next week we'll be on a break until after the break, after you have the whatever season that will return, inshallah.